It's clicked.
All right, the button is clicked.
Things are moving. Bits are streaming. I think we're up.
All right. Well, it's your show, so I'm just going to let you deal with all of the fallout that comes from this.
Well, thanks for coming back on.
Sure.
Yeah, you got a nice purple background there.
Oh, yeah.
Is that
keep it on brand?
Is that actually a purple screen, or you got a green screen? That
No, it's purple paper.
Sick. This is a green screen.
Sponsored by Diet Coke.
and your shoes. How are your shoes doing, by the way?
My shoes?
Yeah, didn't you launch a line of shoes last year?
I didn't launch. So K-Swiss had me do a shoe for them, but I had no input on the design whatsoever. They were like, hey, we want you to be the face of this shoe. And I was like, cool, thinking like they're going to make it a Jordan Harbinger shoe. I'm going to have this Jordan Harbinger stuff on it. And they're like, we got a quote. I'm like, great, it's a Jordan Harbinger quote. I wonder what it is. So it turned out to be not a quote from me at all. I had no input on the design whatsoever. But you know what's funny is I was like, ooh, this is, I hope this shoe does well because it's got my name on it, sort of. I mean, it was called The Entrepreneur, which is kind of funny because, it wasn't called The Podcaster or anything, but it was called The Entrepreneur. And then I was like, how's the shoe doing? Because I was like, oh, man, I hope it does well. You don't want to, it's like publishing a book probably. Like you want it to do well or you feel bad for the people who gave you all the money to do it. And they're like, oh, great, it's sold out everywhere. And I was like, oh, really? And then a lot of people who were trying to get it were like, dude, the shoe's sold out everywhere. I can't get it. And then it occurred to me, did they just not make that many shoes? Yeah. Maybe they were like, I'm not sure this is going to do well. Do like a run of 1,000 and then just forget it, And then, because when you say something is sold out, it either means people really wanted it really bad or they just didn't make that many and they're not planning on making any more. And they wouldn't really tell me what the, I should say they didn't tell me what the answer really was.
Oh, the Jordan shoe was going for $2,000 on eBay.
Yeah, right.
Michael Jordan, though.
Michael Jordan, yeah.
Same thing.
Not mine. What are mine? I jokingly said they should call them Air Force 2s, but they did not do that.
Well, the shoe craze is really like gone
real
nuts right now.
Yeah. I mean,
were you aware of it last year when you did it? Was it last year or was it 2 years ago now?
It might have been 2 years ago now. That's a good question. Yeah, it might have been 2 years ago now. Yeah. The new Jordans. Yeah, they didn't like that either. They were like, we're not going to call them Jordans.
You got two drinks going there, or?
I poured one. I poured one into this, so I actually have one drink.
Gotcha.
I don't want to have branding in my shows, or your shows.
Oh, you're acquiring the Magic Internet Money podcast? That's great.
What's that?
It's your show now.
I hope so. I learned the hard way. You don't want to just like sit there and drink a White Claw because you want to sit there and drink a White Claw for $10,000. And if you do it for free, they're never going to pay you. So you're just like, yeah, what are you drinking? A beverage that has alcohol in it and soda water. And people are like, oh, that's interesting. But then if the check clears, you're like, I'm drinking a Diet Coke.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I'm drinking a Billboard right now. You feel free to tell me what I'm drinking.
Like somebody was like, oh, why don't we buy you like this nice studio furniture and we'll put our logo on it. And I was like, you're getting there. You can buy some nice studio furniture.
I need a house to put it in.
And the house that it's in. And then you can put your logo all over it. Exactly.
So, yeah, we've got a bunch of mutual friends that are like, I've discovered are really into shoe collecting. I was thinking about it today. I was like, was discussing with one of the guys from MMT recently about his shoes that he buys, and he buys them for like $500-600, and they're like limited edition runs, and then they start going for $1,500, $2,000. And then this morning I was like, oh yeah, Jordan did a shoe thing. I wonder if that's turned into some kind of crazy collectible item in Korea or something like that.
That's a good question. I don't know, because they were like K-Swiss and they did another round with some other folks. I mean, who knows? I don't know anything about that. Shoes are like NFTs where I'm like, I get it, but I'm not in it. Like I understand why baseball cards are worth money. I just think it's kind of ridiculous. But also, a lot of things that are ridiculous are worth money. So it's not really I'm not trying to put like a judgment on it and be like, that's nothing. It's not worth anything. Like my dad used to be like, it's only worth what people will pay for it. And I'm like, well, that's true, but the fact is that people are willing to pay for a lot of things. So my dad was always kind of like, that's not worth anything unless someone's willing to buy it. And I'm like, okay, but there's like 7 billion people on Earth, and there definitely is going to be somebody willing to buy this. You know what I mean?
Someone's going to be willing to buy it, for sure.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, the trends are nuts. The trend, like if you hopped onto every trend where things started to go parabolic or whatever, or these communities develop where they're trading knickknacks or whatever, you'd go broke buying up everything. There's so many of these niche trends start popping up all over the place.
It was like Beanie Babies, you know.
They're back, dude. They're back.
Crazy.
I got a friend who's collecting Beanie Babies again.
It's wild. You know, Beanie Babies were interesting because they existed in a time. They started, I should say, in a time where you could go to Target and buy Beanie Babies. But then if they were out of them, yeah, if you were a nut like my aunt was, you could drive like 30 miles to another store where they had the rainbow one and they were going to hold it for you. And you drove 30 minutes to get there, or an hour and a half or 3 hours, whatever it was, to get there. And you're like, yeah, I got the rainbow, you know, whatever, stupid thing. But I remember I did my exchange year in Germany, and my aunt was like, do they have Beanie Babies? Because there's limited edition European only Beanie Babies. So I was like, they do. Yeah, they're everywhere. So, and they're not that hot here. Like, they're hot, but they're not that hot. So I'd go to stores and I'd buy Beanie Babies and mail them back. And she was like, I have German Beanie Babies. She was like making money off these things, right? Nice. So now, though, you don't really have that advantage anywhere, because you can easily, now that there's internet and it's widespread, if you want German edition Beanie Babies, you go on eBay and there's somebody that has an virtually unlimited number of every single model of German Beanie Baby and every European edition. They're all warehoused in New Jersey, and you can buy all of them, right? There's nothing, it's like not hard to get anymore, which is weird because that somehow, I don't know if it's lowered the price, but it's made it so super accessible. And you know, I'm sure this ties into the whole thing. It ties into the crypto thing somewhere, and I'll leave that part up to you because you're the crypto guy. But like, it just becomes, there's something that's sort of less special when something is accessible anywhere. And that's, I think, why NFTs have value, because there really is only one. Whereas like now there's counterfeit Beanie Babies, and you're not going to know that it's counterfeit unless you're like a really legit collector that has the ability to find that stuff. But most people will never care. They'll get the same value out of owning the fake limited edition one as long as they don't know that it's fake. But you can't really do that with an NFT, right?
Kind of, yes and no. I mean, like, you can make fake NFTs for sure, but the NFT thing it's a total bubble right now. More so like the Beanie Babies bubble was back in the day. Like, now the Beanie Babies are coming back more in a nostalgic way, the same way that like Garbage Pail Kids cards are coming back, and Pogs and stuff like that, just random like trends from when we were growing up. They're coming back now. Pokemon cards, obviously, people are going crazy over Pokemon cards. I got a buddy that bought like $40,000 worth of Pokemon cards in the summer, and I thought he was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And then he just recently told me they're worth like $200,000 in like 6 months.
Crazy. I know, like, do you know who Pat Flynn is? Smart passive
income. Not General Flynn.
No. This is a like a guy who has a podcast who's quite popular, but he's really into Pokemon cards. And I thought, okay, fine, you have young kids, but it's like, no, he's into Pokemon cards. And I was like, all right, whatever, bro. But now I'm like, okay. He looks at it like collecting, you know, like a lot of women look at collecting like handbags that you can't get anymore, you know? And they're like, I looked the other day, are you familiar with a Birkin bag? Have you heard of this?
No.
Birkin bag is, I want to say, Hermes, and they are more valuable used than they are new.
Really?
Because they keep retiring colors and patterns. And like, it's almost like the uglier this damn thing is, the more it's worth. And I'm talking about like $50,000 handbags, not like $4,000 or, you know, $600. I'm talking about handbags that cost as much as a Mercedes. That are, you know, and these are used. I'm gonna look it up right now. And you can't just go to the store and buy them. Like, you can walk into Hermes and get a scarf for your wife, right? No problem. $600 or whatever, $1,000. I don't know how much those things cost. If you walk into Hermes and you say hi, I'd like a Birkin bag, they're going to be like, oh, well, calm down. You're not getting one.
Come to the back. Leave your valuables up front with us.
It's not even like that. It's like, I know somebody who's wealthy who is kind of a ridiculous person, honestly. You can always tell when people didn't earn their money and their parents did or their grandparents did because they buy shit like this constantly. But you have to shop at Hermes all the time. You have to buy a bunch of bags. You have to schmooze the salespeople, let them know how interested you are in a Birkin bag. And then, in a year of you bugging them and kissing their ass, they will call you and they will say, we have a bag available, which is just bullshit. They probably have hundreds of them back there, especially if you live in New York, but whatever. And then they will unlock this room and then you're allowed into the room. And I think they give you like tea and all this stuff. But I would imagine you have to spend, tens of thousands, if not more dollars at Hermes before they will let you set foot in this room. And then they will let you select like out of 1, 2, 3 different types of Birkin bags. And then you have the privilege of buying a $15,000 to $30,000 handbag.
It's used?
No, these would be the new ones.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't. The used ones, you've got to get off eBay, but which are of course easier to get. But I think there's some missing element here where maybe if you're the one that buys that Birkin bag, you're starting some sort of family. They want you to think that you're starting some sort of family tradition and you're going to hand it down to your grandkid. But in reality, it's a fucking purse, right? I don't know if I'm allowed to drop F-bombs on your show, but there you go.
Of course.
And it's silly and it's ridiculous and they're not. They look like they're for old ladies because generally they are, because who else has $50,000 to spend on a handbag? I'm gonna look on eBay right now because these are. I'm gonna look for buy it now. Is that the quickest way to get big prices? Yeah.
Oh, what you can do is you go to advanced and then click on recently sold or sold, and then it'll tell you anything that's sold that you're searching for. That's usually what I do.
Advanced, customized, maybe.
Let's go eBay. This is a lesson for everybody. If you want to see what something sold for on eBay, search for it. What's it called? A Birkin bag?
Birkin. Yep.
Birkin bag. And then you click advanced next to the search bar, and then
that's tiny.
Completed listings.
Sold listings.
Yeah.
Sold listings, right?
Yeah. Click on those.
And then search.
And then it'll show you all the ones that someone actually purchased rather than just everything everybody's got up for sale. Then you can see what something's value is. Holy shit. $10,000 somebody paid.
That's cheap. That's cheap. And the runs that are like $150, look, it says Birkin type. That's
pre-owned 6,300, 9,700, 71, 11,000.
Yeah.
Holy man, these are 13 to 15,000, 22,000.
Look for the ugliest ones. In fact,
57,000. What the shit?
Sir, if you search by the highest priced, it's going to be like one that has Mickey Mouse on it. One that has the Monopoly guy. I'm not even kidding. It's going to be like, it looks like it was left under a ladder when they painted a wall. $17,000.
Yeah, the one that recently sold on February 26th was $57,000, and it just looks like a plastic crocodile bag.
Yep.
And then there's a hot pink one that went for 40,000.
Yeah. These are Birkin bags. And so these are generally just not.
That's crazy.
There's like no there. At all. It's horrifying. And this leads into like me sort of pontificating on Jesus. Wouldn't you feel better having fed a village of children in Texas, in California?
Yeah, and you do the same search Pokemon Charizard card for the completed listings. $63,000 one sold for January 20th.
I'm seeing a few $100 here. How much?
$63,000.
Holy moly.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like crazy speculation. I sorted by price highest first. Anyways, I mean, I think like NFTs and hold on, I gotta get a white background up so it doesn't look when I don't have a white background up on my computer. Look at my background. It goes all wonky.
Oh, that's weird.
My lighting situation sucks.
That's got to be a lighting situation. Are you in a dark room?
I am. Yeah.
That's why. Yeah, that's why.
So let me, before we get into the NFT stuff, it's an interesting conversation. We should for sure go there, because we're seeing bubbles everywhere now. Like, we're seeing speculation like going crazy. And since the last time you were on the show, I think Bitcoin went from, I think it was like $10,000 when you were on the show last time to now like 60 or something like that.
Right. Which has been great, because my asset allocation is now all screwed up, as I told you before, right? Like, because you're supposed to, stuff that's high risk, if you're conservative, you have it you keep 5% of your net worth in this. And I was like, I'm going to do 10 because I'm young and I can afford more risk. And now it's like the asset classes have inflated. Great. Yeah. But I'm at the point where, like, if something happens to Tesla and Bitcoin, I'm going to be like, damn,
you're going to be living on the streets.
Not good. Yeah. I mean, not really, but like, yeah, it's not great. It's not going to be great if something happens to those two asset classes, right? Yeah. So, or assets. But it's also like, hey, cool, I'm probably going to be able to retire like a decade earlier than I planned because of those two assets. So I can't really get too upset about it.
What did you think when Tesla bought Bitcoin? Because you hold both, right? You're a big.
I hold both. So I was like, do I technically own more Bitcoin now? No. Look, I was kind of excited because I saw Bitcoin price skyrocket, and I was like, great. It's good. It lends legitimacy to Bitcoin. And it just sort of reminds me that every time Bitcoin is too expensive, at $3,000, at $5,000, at $10,000, at $20,000, at $60,000, you just can't, like, apparently there's no such thing as too expensive for Bitcoin. But I'm at the point where it doesn't make sense for me to continue to pump money into it, because while I think it will still appreciate, there's certain investing principles that you probably should not totally screw up at some point. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, Tesla. What's the next Tesla? Probably just Tesla. Buy more Tesla. Really, though? Because if anything happens, I'm screwed if anything happens to that. And there's something to be said for stability at age 40 with a family.
It's like, I struggle with that too, because majority of my net worth is Bitcoin.
Sure.
And it's been like that for a long time. And I try to read a lot, and I try to watch a lot and learn from people who are money managers, and balance the perspective, because I got into Bitcoin for the reasons we talked about lots of times. I didn't think dollars were going to be something I wanted to own for a long time. I thought there was going to be a stock market crash and the dollar was going to start losing its reserve currency status. But this is back in 2008, 9, 10. And I was looking at Bitcoin as a way to opt out. I was like, I don't want any of this dirty fiat money anymore. I just want new digital money. It's like, I'm going to opt out, and I'm trading in my bad money for good money. But then when the thing starts going on a rocket ship up, I'm like, well, maybe I want some of that bad money. Like, some of that shit money's not so bad if I get a lot of it for selling a little bit of my Bitcoin.
Right.
So I kind of had cognitive dissonance around my beliefs and values of why I got into Bitcoin, with balancing that with trying not to be dumb. And like you said, like, trying to follow conservative investment principles and not be too overweight in one asset class, even though I think it's the main one that I should be in.
Sure.
You got to kind of balance it out somehow, and like, not be stupid. So I would slowly sell little chunks back into dollars to do things like diversify into real estate, or invest in some companies, and do some lending, and do some VC investing, stuff like that. But then I really don't know what the right answer is, because I should have never sold any of my Bitcoin. I should have never sold a single Bitcoin.
Right. I feel like that too. Like, I was thinking about this the other day, because somebody was like, oh, did you keep this? Did you keep that? Like, altcoins. And I only kept 0x. We can talk about that in a second if you want, but I only kept 0x, and I sold everything else other than Ethereum and Bitcoin. I only had like 8 Ethereum or something like that, right? I just had like the residual crap that was stuck in exchanges from like me buying all these shitty alts. And it was weird, because if you have a graph of me in 2016, 2017, whenever I think it was 2017, that massive like pump,
Yeah.
It was like, I know a lot about Bitcoin, or a lot-ish, not like you, but like more than most people. Like I'm probably I was in the top 1% at that point, because people were like, how do I buy crypto? And I was like, okay, you're, and I had listeners donating to me like 0.25 Bitcoin, which now I'm like, thanks for the $15,000 donation, homie. But I knew enough to screw it all up. Like everybody I know who was like, how do I buy crypto? I was like, just buy Bitcoin. Don't try and get into ICOs. They're complicated. You're not going to know how to vet the right ones, blah, blah, blah. So a bunch of my friends, I helped them buy Bitcoin, and they were like, cool, I have FOMO. I'm not getting all these ICOs, but thanks for helping me get into Bitcoin. Those people just held Bitcoin. I dicked around and moved money here and bought all these ICOs there, and I hit one. It was like turned $2,000 into $72,000, and do this other one, and it 19x's, and do this one, and it 10x's. If I just moved money, bought Bitcoin, and read the fucking newspaper, I would have made way more money than trying to do all this and this and this and this and this. So it was kind of an interesting lesson for me, and I'm taking that lesson into NFTs, where I go, I'm just not going to buy any of these. Because the odds of me picking one and then being able to flip it and do this and this and this and this, I'm just going to learn that altcoin lesson again. I'm going to take the money that I would have bought NFTs with, and I'm going to just buy more Bitcoin, and everyone's going to go, are you crazy? It's $50,000. And I'm going to go, don't talk to me about this. And I'm going to sit on it for 10 years. And then when I buy a beach house for whatever Bitcoin I bought 2 months ago, I'm going to be like, see ya suckers later. How's that LeBron James or not? How's that not LeBron James, but the other guy that's not worth shit now clip treating you, right? Yeah, exactly. or the guy that appreciated 5% or 500% instead of 50,000%. How's that going for you?
That's a good strategy. I really do think that, like, buying Bitcoin and holding it for 10 years, sitting on your hands, going back to your normal life is the best decision you can make. And like, occasionally, as Bitcoin does move, like in these parabolic runs, you may have to make a decision to reallocate and like sell a little bit of Bitcoin to fund your lifestyle or buy the beach house or whatever it is. But for the most part, like most people shouldn't be messing around with the altcoins and the NFTs and any whatever other crypto bubbles pop up, because they're probably going to end up getting wrecked. I mean, most people do end up getting wrecked. A lot of people right now are making a killing on this stuff because it's a full-blown tulip bubble, digital tulip bubble. So you buy an NBA Top Shots pack, and then you can instantly flip it for like 5x or something. But then this is all going to end at some point.
Someone's going to bag hold. Someone's going to buy it for 500 grand and go, "Oh, this is worth $400 now."
There's no liquidity at all. Like in 2018 and 19, when shit hit the fan and the crypto bubble popped, you couldn't sell any of the ICOs. There was zero liquidity to sell the ICO coins. So that's going to definitely happen again with the NFTs. It already kind of is happening with some of the NFTs now. There's a lot of FOMO around the launch just because they manipulate the supply, and they do like scarcity, manipulated scarcity, where there's 10,000 pieces that are going to be sold and 50,000 people are on the wait list trying to get some. So they manufacture that FOMO and that like lottery feeling, like, oh my God, if I get chosen to buy this $2,000 pixel art thing, then I'm going to be lucky. And then 10,000 people get chosen to buy it. And of course they buy it, and a few, like maybe like 10 or 20% of them will flip it instantly. And then that people think, oh, well, I guess the market for this now is 5x what I paid for it. But then if everybody tried to sell it all at once, nobody's going to be paying those prices.
Then it's worth 20% what you paid for it. Exactly.
Yeah.
You mentioned selling some to fund your lifestyle. I mean, that makes sense if you have an overwhelming amount of your net worth in crypto, which I have a bunch, but I also have actual cash because I have a business, the Jordan Harbinger Show, for those who don't know and wonder why the hell I'm qualified to be on here at all. I'm not. But I have the podcast that brings in a healthy amount of money. So I honestly could not only afford to lose all my crypto, not that I'm like trying to do that, but I can also afford to ignore it. And that, I think, is a luxury in investing, where like I looked the other day on, when Tesla hit like there was something where Tesla took a major hit, and I have a lot of Tesla stock, and I looked in Fidelity, and it was like daily net loss minus $268,000, and I was like,
it's a crypto flashback, from
I was like, what the F? What was interesting was my dad called and goes, you gotta sell that Tesla. I know you don't want me to sell it, because he sold some of my Tesla once, and I go, young man, old man, you buy that back right now. And he bought it back and it was like $2,000 cheaper. And he's like, see, I made you money. And I was like, never do that again, man. This is going to go way up. And this is like in 2018. So now he's
well, not just that, but that's like you're like resetting your long-term capital gains timer when you sell and buy back.
Yeah. So I was not super thrilled about that. But he also was like
panicking.
Did
you give your pops access to your accounts?
So here's what happened, right? When I was young, my dad taught me how to invest because he was an auto worker. And I was like, investing? I don't need to do that. I'm young. And he's like, no. You're going to max out this Roth IRA, even though you work at a movie theater, you know? And then I was like, all right. Then I go to college and he's like, you can put $5,000 away in an IRA because you have capital gains. So technically you make money and you got to put it. So he was, listening to like money talk on AM radio. So I was doing all that. And so for a while it was his account. And then when I was like 30, he's like, hey, this should not be a thing. Like now you're saving 50 grand a year. You don't need to be piggybacking off my thing. And then, so the Fidelity was like, hey, you can get your own accounts. It was already under my name, but like my dad had access to it because I was just, working in college and he's like, I'll put money in there every now and again for you and invest for you. And then when I was like 30, he's like, this is stupid. You know more about this than I do, or you know as much as I do. Now he has access to it because I guess the thought process is if something happens to me, he can do stuff where my wife couldn't. Now my wife has access because I'm married. But before it was like, oh, what's going to happen if all your money's stuck in here? It just made sense, Yeah. And now he doesn't have access. But a few years ago he did, and he saw Elon Musk smoking a joint on Joe Rogan, so he sold a bunch of my Tesla stock. And I was like, damn it, don't do that. This is not going to affect any
access denied, pops.
access. But most people who own, or not most, many people who own Tesla stock, they were like, cool, he smoked a joint, no one cares, right? And some people sold their Tesla stock, but I think it was probably like super religious fruitcake investing co, right? And it's like somebody who's just so conservative. They're like, we don't condone the use of marijuana. So they sold their stock, or they thought he's having a breakdown. Let's sell the stock.
Be crazy. He's smoking a joint. He's insane. He can't run a company.
Reefer madness. Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, we all invested in Elon's stuff because he is crazy enough to be. I forget what our original point was, but basically, so I looked at my net loss gain in my dashboard and I was like panicking. But I remember going, you know what? The luxury that you have when you don't speculate is none of it matters. Like, if anything, now's a good time to buy more Tesla stock, when it takes a hit like that. Mm-hmm. And same thing, if Bitcoin goes way down, oh, well, I'm not going to sell my Bitcoin because it's at a loss. And I know a lot of crypto dudes who lost like $5 million in the 2017 or whatever, 2018 bubble popping. Mm-hmm. And they lost tons of money and they sold all of their Link and their Eng and their 0x and their Ethereum. They sold it all because they were like, this is all going to zero. Mm-hmm. And they had good reason to believe that because they'd already lost so much money. And then they went and bought a house. And now they're like, I wonder if I have any of this left in an exchange somewhere because it's all back up. So whenever it's way down, I just ignore it. I just straight up forget about it. I'm like, nope, not even going to put any brain power into this. Forget about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's the philosophy of being a trader or being an investor.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I picked up from reading a lot of books about portfolio management and trend following was that the people that made the most amount of money in the commodities boom in the early 90s and the 80s and the dot-com bubbles and all these different bull runs, they were trend followers who just rode the wave. And typically the feeling is like you take from your winners. So if something like Bitcoin is up 700%, typically people at like 200 or 300%, there'll be just that overwhelming feeling to take profits because you're up so much, but then your losers are kind of like lagging behind. So they take from the winner and they add to the loser, saying, well, I can get more of this investment now. But that's not the way that most people, investors, like trend following investors, make their money. They make their money riding the bucking bronco, as Tom Basso calls it. And they just wait until the trend completely reverses. So like right now we're in a long bull market for Bitcoin. It's been a bull market for like 6 months at least, and it's likely to keep going for another 12 months, unless anything drastic changes, like unless Joe Biden decides to raise taxes to 70% or some kind of crazy.
Totally possible. Yeah.
You never know. Like if they try to do a taxation on unrealized capital gains, or they start to raise the interest rates and stop printing trillions of dollars and let the economy kind of flush itself out and go into a recession. Any of that type of stuff, all this collectible like bubbles, all these different bubbles, the real estate market, stock market, all this stuff, it's going to come way down, and Bitcoin is going to come down too for temporarily, but it doesn't seem like they have many options, man, to like, none of those politicians want to have the plebeian class uprise against them and grab their torches and pitchforks.
Sure.
So it seems like they're going to just keep printing money, keeping the rates low, and that actually fuels these speculative bubbles. So while I don't think Bitcoin is a bubble, I think it's prone to having bubble formations, and I think a bubble in Bitcoin is like $500,000 to $1 million.
Yeah,
that's bubble That's when I'm probably going to sell some around 250 in 8 to 12 months or something if it gets there. Just to like, I feel like I have to. I just feel like I should sell a little bit. I should just sell some at those prices, not a lot, but just kind of like, so I'm not being dumb.
Well, you could do that, and then even if Bitcoin goes to zero, you'd have enough fiat to never work again. And if it goes way up, you still have enough Bitcoin to also never work. But then you have, you have another store of value that ensures that you don't have to worry about your Bitcoin, and your Bitcoin ensures that you never have to worry about your fiat. And that's like a good place to be, right?
Yeah, like my sister is probably an example of an average normal person who's never had any kind of wealth before. She's lived in the mountains in Cape Breton, one of the poorer parts of the East Coast, where it's like seasonal work, and the housing situation there is kind of like a house that would be probably where you live or where I live, maybe $500,000. It's like $50,000 where she lives, because it's just like a depressed economy, local economy.
I don't even think you can get a house for $500,000 here. I live in Silicon Valley, dude. I think
do you? Never mind.
There are garages that cost $500,000. Yeah, dude. I saw a house that is new build, crappy old one-story house, got torn down, 3,000 square foot house, $2.5 million.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Toronto's kind of like that too.
Yeah, it's like Toronto pricing. I don't live in San Francisco, but I live in San Jose, and it's basically the same thing.
Yeah. The Sharks. San Jose Sharks.
Yeah. I live right adjacent in a town called Saratoga. And like these houses here are bonkers. Great school district, Apple still expanding, whatever, Facebook, like all these, it's all this, everyone here works for Apple or Facebook or Substack, probably. I don't even know whatever the next ones are. Salesforce,
Coinbase.
Mm-hmm.
So my sister, she's never really had savings or anything before, and she worked minimum wage jobs. She went back to school to become like a personal support worker. So she was making some like $20 an hour or something like that. But she had all these financial problems, and we didn't really have a lot of financial education growing up. So it was always like, you're looking forward to getting on Pogi, like to get your next CI check.
Was that like welfare or something?
Employment insurance.
Okay.
So, you work for 400 or 500 hours, and then you get laid off, and you go on 6 months of minimum life sustaining paychecks from the government, and then you do whatever you want with your time, work some under the table jobs, or just play video games, or hang out with your kids, or learn music or whatever. That's kind of been the average person's life in Cape Breton because of the seasonal work there. It's like coal mining and the steel industry.
Yeah, okay, we have that. It's like
call centers.
Yeah.
So she anyway bought some Bitcoin like at $600 because she was pretty much had nothing left except for a few grand. So I convinced her to buy some Bitcoin.
You better be right about this, Brad.
Yeah. She trusted me. And now it's like she's got this feeling of safety net that she's never had in her life, and she's got like diamond hands. Like she's held through the $20,000 top in 2017. She held all the way down through the bottom at like 3,500 through 2018-19, and she's still holding it. So she's got like diamond hands holding this Bitcoin that she bought at like $600 each, and I'm just super proud of her. But like I'm trying to put myself in her shoes sometimes, because occasionally she will ask me like, should I sell a little bit of this, because she doesn't have much else, right? That's pretty much her only savings, and she has a little bit of income coming in. But like for somebody like that who has Bitcoin as their opt-out exit plan, like this is my backup retirement, it's tough to know what kind of advice to give to that person, because they don't have that safety net that me and you have.
Yeah. Well, luckily she has a brother who's got a lot of Bitcoin. So if anything really goes wrong,
right. I guess she does have a bit of a safety net.
Yeah. No, you're right though. You're right. I'm in the same boat, and like I said, that's the luxury of having it. Like I know people that say they have 95% of their net worth in Bitcoin, and I used to be like, you're a moron, and now I understand how that happened. It's because they didn't have that much money to begin with, and they bought $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, which wasn't a super smart investment at the time, but then turned out to be something that makes sense, and they just don't have other savings. So those people are in a position where they have to sell Bitcoin, or they like can't pay for their freaking physical at the doctor, or their prescriptions, or like they can't put gas in their car, without selling some.
It started like that, but there's a bunch of people now that I think consciously, like in our chat that we have, like there's a bunch of us that are like, we're selling everything that we own to have more Bitcoin, like selling our houses and getting out of anything liquid just to get more Bitcoin, taking second mortgages on the house to get more Bitcoin. But I guess that's part of the trader mentality versus the investor mentality.
It is. I've learned as I get older to value not being kept up at night by worry pretty highly.
Yeah.
And I think if I had a second mortgage out on my house and I had put it into Bitcoin, I'd be looking at the Bitcoin price every day, and when it went down $3,000, I'd be like, oh my God. That's not good. Right. I have a kid. I don't want to be dealing with that. I'm okay losing upside by mitigating downside. And that's because I'm 41 with a kid, right? I think if I was 21 and I had a bunch of Bitcoin, I'd be like, I'm selling a kidney to get more Bitcoin. I don't need both. So that's where I'd be with it. And I get that. But now I'm like, if I didn't have my business and my business wasn't doing well, I think I would have a different mindset also. If I can make a bunch of money in other ways through the Jordan Harbinger show, where I have advertisers paying me to drink unspecified drinks on camera, like that makes me feel like, okay, I can afford to sit on this Bitcoin. I can afford to lose all this Bitcoin. I can afford to invest 20 grand in a Roblox IPO and hope that it goes up. Are you familiar with that at all? Did you look at that at all?
Oh, my daughter's a Roblox fiend.
That's good to hear.
I was gonna buy some shares last year because her and her friends were all playing it like crazy, and it was like a $4 billion valuation at the time I saw it at.
Well, you couldn't buy it last year; just IPO'd like 2 weeks ago.
I was gonna buy it on the private market.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that would have been great.
And I was like, $4 billion. This is just a video game. Screw that.
Right.
Like
now it's worth 40 billion.
Now it's 40 billion. But crazy. Valuations are nuts though on everything. Like even Tesla, even like Roblox, Coinbase is going to come out, I think, valued higher than like banks, like JP Morgan or something.
I think it's valued at 100 billion, and everyone's like, it's undervalued. But here, this is a good question, because I was wondering if you were going to get in on that IPO, and everyone says it's overvalued, it's overvalued, it's overvalued, but they probably own more than $100 billion in freaking cryptocurrency.
I don't think they do, actually.
Oh, really?
I think it came out that Coinbase doesn't own much at all in Bitcoin.
Oh, okay. See, that's what I was wondering. I was like, I wonder if they just have $200 billion. Like they have 3 million Bitcoin in their wallet. But you could see that. I figured somebody like you can actually go, hey, this is the Coinbase wallet, and it's not.
No, they disclosed it when they went public. They had to disclose in the S1 that
makes sense.
That they like how much what was on their asset sheet, what assets are on the balance sheet, and I'm pretty sure they have like less than Square does, or not much at all, like 20 million or something. I could be like off base there, but I'm pretty sure it's a really low amount of Bitcoin.
That's interesting. I just figure it's the PayPal of cryptocurrencies, so it's probably a decent buy.
You know, as long as we're in this crazy market where everything is going up and the Fed is keeping everything low and they're trying to prevent hyperinflation, and they're just pumping trillions of dollars into direct stimulus into people's bank accounts and bailing out companies and the banks, it could sustain a higher valuation. Like lots of companies could sustain higher valuations. SPACs are kind of like the Wall Street version of NFTs, in my opinion.
Yeah, they
It's
totally
like,
are.
they're like Wall Street ICOs.
Yeah, they for sure are. Yeah.
So I don't know, man. This is such a crazy market that we're in. And anybody that was calling the demise of the stock market for the last like 20 years has been pretty much proven wrong, because the amount of money that they've printed is just obscene. So it's like they can keep doing that probably for another, who knows, like decade or something like that. If they control it, if they print just fast enough to keep things pumping, but just slow enough to prevent hyperinflation, they got a few tricks up their sleeves. They can do a broad like increase of everybody's credit card by 2x and then put a freeze on interest rates for 2 years or something like that, to just encourage people to go wild and speculate, and do programs where like everybody's first house is like paid for by half by the government with a 0% interest mortgage for 10 years. They can do a lot of shit to keep the party going. So I don't know how quickly. I wouldn't be betting against the stock market or the IPOs or SPACs or any of this stuff. I'm okay. I'll take some hedges here and there. Like I'll buy some puts and stuff like that, a little bit, dabble with that, just in case that there is a big crash, that you're kind of protected. But yeah, I don't think it's like smart to short something like this, where they're literally printing trillions of dollars to prevent a crash.
Yeah, I mean, where I'm at now, you mentioned going into secondary markets. That is like case in point how the rich get richer, right? You look at secondary markets and you go, huh, all right, I can buy Palantir at $6. It's going to IPO in a year. It's probably going to be worth more than $6. Or it's going to be locked up for 6 months. It's probably not going to crash. Might just come out and do nothing. All right, here's $100,000, because it's like the minimum you have to buy stuff on the secondary market. Generally, 100,000, 250,000. And then you buy it and it goes to $8. Palantir goes to $27. And you're like, oh, okay, I killed it. And you only have to, like, most IPOs don't completely freaking tank, especially compared to what they were on the secondary market, right? Like maybe you lose half your value in some of them, but most of them you gain a little, or they don't do anything. But some of them you absolutely murder it, right? And that's just, and you don't have access to that unless you're making $1 million a year. You just can't do it.
Unless as you buy Bitcoin.
Right.
That's, like, the average person can buy, and it's fundamentally, it makes no sense that these IPOs are all killing it like this. It's because Ray Dalio wrote a letter last year about the situation with investors, where they're literally getting free money, like base money, injected into their accounts, and these big investment banks and stuff are supposed to be using that to try to like trickle down to the economy, to spur the economy. But really what all these investors are doing is they're trying to get a return on their money. So they're just giving money to people, and people don't even need the money. These big companies or these startups don't need money like a big company does, but they know that if they don't take the money, it's going to be given to one of their competitors. So they take the money, and then Andreessen Horowitz and all these, like, and the big investment banks and stuff, well, they'll just put all these companies on treadmills to get to the public markets, and then it just like pumps. Pretty much it has to pump, because if it doesn't pump, then that doesn't look good for the stock market. So it's like a foregone conclusion that like everything that gets listed has to pump. Otherwise that's going to look bad, and people are going to start selling their stocks and not participating. How long can that go on for? It doesn't make much sense.
It scares me. It does scare me. And that's probably one of the main reasons that I have crypto as a hedge. And also one of the reasons why I don't make all of my money in investing. And I just don't ever really, I don't take money out of the market. I move it around, or I invest it in other things. I shouldn't say the market. I don't take my money out and spend it. Like, I invest it in my business. Because my business,
you're doing good with that.
Yeah, my business is doing great. Like if I put in $1, I get either $1 or $2 or $3 in the next few years. Unfortunately, the turnaround on it is slow because that's how my business works. You know, it's advertising where you like get a new, let's say you get 1,000 new listeners for the Jordan Harbinger show. So my ad rate goes up by $25, but it's not immediate. It goes up in a few months because the ad agency doesn't want to pay that. Then they're sending out proposals. Then those proposals get accepted in a couple months. And then they sell some ads based on those proposals. And then I run the ads a couple months later and then they get billed net 90. So it's like an 8-month, 9-month turnaround or more on that. It's probably more like a year and a half. But that's actually not that long. I used to think like, oh, this is miserable. But that's because everything is getting compared to tech. Where if you were a farmer, and that's a crap example, but let's use it anyway, or a manufacturer, that's more of a realistic 20th century example anyway. If you're building something, having a 1 or 2 year turnaround on your money is totally fine.
Yeah.
Right? But like, or 2 year turnaround, 3 year turnaround, totally fine. Now though, people are like, I bought this a week ago and it hasn't gone up. And you're like, okay. And, you know, so it's hard for me to sort of keep that in mind because I'm looking for like instant gratification on everything. And I realize if something goes up slowly, there's also many instances in where it will go down slowly because it takes time to do that. And that's actually kind of nice. You know, like I want to know a year and a half in advance if I'm not going to have any ad revenue coming in so I can pivot. I don't want to find out a week before that I'm never getting paid the same way I got paid before and I have to figure this shit out on the fly. Like, that's not good.
What do you think happens to the industry that you're in, like the advertising podcast space? If the party does stop, like, what do you think happens to that space?
I do worry about that because advertising is usually the first thing that gets cut when companies take a hit. So if there's a major hit in the market and companies go, hey, we can't even afford to pay our staff, let alone grow and advertise, that's going to dramatically lower the amount of money in the ad market. So my strategy, which is why I'm growing now, is one, if I can be in the top 0.01% instead of the top 1% or top 0.1% or wherever I'm at now. I think I'm in the 0.1 or 0.01% of podcasts. But if I can be in like the higher I can be in that tier, like, Then these companies go, all right, we're cutting 90% of our budgets. Now we only have money for Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss, Jordan Harbinger, I don't know,
right?
So-and-so. And that's fine because I'm still in that bucket of like, hey, I can afford. But the other thing that I'm doing is I'm growing and my wife goes, we don't need to make more. Why are you doing this? We don't need to make more money. And one, please. But two, we don't need it. But if you're making, let's say you generate a business and it's making $300,000 a year. Well, if you're living off of $100,000 and you're investing $200,000 in growth, then cool. Well, what happens if you lose 2/3 of your income? Okay, you stop advertising and growing, but your lifestyle doesn't take a hit. You're not going like, hi, Jaden, my kid, we can't send you to school this year with all your friends because we're summer camp. We're broke now and we don't have a car anymore. Like, we don't have to do any of that. I just go, all right, I guess I'm going to stop throwing money at growth for the next foreseeable future.
Right, yeah.
But I'm still making, like, I basically, since I turned off the growth faucet, my income to me personally or to the business is almost the same because I'm no longer spending 2/3 of it on growth because that 2/3 is gone. So I can actually shut off advertising faster than they can shut it off. That faster than the income gets shut off coming to me. Does that make sense? Like, yeah. I guess companies could go straight up bankrupt and never pay me, but that would have to happen to a lot of companies at the exact same time, and that's unlikely. What's more likely is I cancel stuff 30 days out, and I go, I can't afford to pay you 30 days out, and they go, okay, no problem. But for the stuff that's already aired, I have to pay for, no problem. I already have that money. So I've set it up so that I will get more warning than I will need. And then I won't have to, and that's my strategy now is like,
what happened
to 2 or 3 times the size.
Last year when everything went to shit in March and April, did that happen to you then or?
Yeah, I mean, I lost like 15%. I was down and I said, hold the line. I bet it's going to be fine. I slowed my spending down, but I didn't even need to. I was totally fine. And now we're up like 100%, almost, nice. Or like, sorry, not 100%. We're up like 60%.
Nice.
Yeah, in terms of growth. And that's just now, like everything is delayed by 6 months or a year, right? So it sort of depends. But yeah, I was freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen. And what happened was there was a blip where people changed their routines from listening and, hey, we're not driving, I'm not listening anymore. And then I decided this is the time to buy new podcast listeners, because people who are listening in the middle of a pandemic when they're not going to the gym and they're not driving, these are people that they are making time to download and listen to podcasts. These are people that are diehard podcast fans. So when the pandemic is over, theoretically, when people do go back to the gym, when some people do have to go back to a commute, there's this whole thing like, we're never going to commute again. That's not even remotely true. Like 90% of people who are working from home now are going to have to go back, or 80%, whatever. Those people are going to pick up podcasts again. And so that 15%, 20% that a lot of people lost, I think is just going to sort of pop back up. Most of them will pop back up. But all the people that make time to listen to podcasts during the day when they're cooking, they're still going to do it. Mm-hmm. They might shift some of their listening to the commute, but that's
what about Clubhouse? Have you seen a drop off of listeners because of that?
No, I don't think Clubhouse is going to take any bite out of podcasting, because Clubhouse is like, and you've heard me rant on this before, but Clubhouse is like, hey, it's a podcast, only there's 7 guests. We didn't really plan for anything. Nobody really did any prep. Some of you are cooking and on mute right now. Everyone's recording on AirPods. Oh, except nobody's actually keeping the file, so you can't listen to it later. And a maximum of 2,000 or 5,000 people or whatever it is can listen. So somebody like me who's like, why would I do a room where 5,000 people can listen unless it's like a friend's thing? Mm-hmm. I'm never doing that. Like, I wouldn't even do a friend's Clubhouse, because then like 300, 600,000 people are going to listen to it. It's not worth it. At least now, let's say now we're on StreamYard. Let's say that only a few hundred people ever listen to this in the first week that it comes out. But then in the next year, hundreds/thousands of people are going to listen to this. That makes a big difference. Mm-hmm. Clubhouse has no long tail. It's over. When it's over, it's over. And that sucks. And Clubhouse for me was sit there and wait for an hour to speak for 2 minutes. Yeah. And then you get a bunch of followers on that same platform that you hate using. And I'm like, fuck this, fuck this. I think where Clubhouse might take a bite out of podcasting, if it does at all, it's going to be out of the shyster, lower, bottom of the barrel, crusty 10%.
Yeah, marketing people that are just trying to sell courses and stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be Ty Lopez doesn't do his podcast anymore that nobody gave a fuck about. Now he's doing Clubhouses that only idiots go on and buy his stupid, get rich with the I've predicted the next Bitcoin course that they buy from. So it's like all the shysters that are already scamming everyone, they're just going to scam people on Clubhouse instead of podcasting because it's easier and faster. But nobody's trading how I built this with Guy Raz for 3 bros talking about business development in Clubhouse. They're not doing that. One is sort of like art, and the other one is not. It's a conference call.
Yeah, Clubhouse is pretty interesting. It's for me as a Bitcoiner. The Bitcoin community on Clubhouse is pretty cool. So I'm there mostly just to hang out with people and learn new things and stuff.
I'm not shitting on the idea that Clubhouse exists.
Oh, but the rest of Clubhouse is trash. It's just like my Clubhouse feed is just full of all these like dumb
multi-gazillionaire secrets with a guy who lives in his mom's basement. What?
Yeah, or like how you can capture the NFT craze and make $1 million on NFTs.
Right.
It's like every third room on my Clubhouse feed is like some marketing guy teaching you how to like launch NFTs and get rich quick off of NFTs.
And I'm like, wait, why do you have time to be in here? Shouldn't you be launching NFTs? Oh, wait, you've never fucking done that in your whole life. You're talking out of your ass, and everyone in here is 17 years old. Got it.
How do you hear like the NFTs pitched in your regular circle, or like what's your...
Not at all. The only thing that people are talking about NFT wise in my circle is if it's like boomer adjacent people, they're like, I don't understand it. And then there's other people that I know that are like really into it, but they either have a very good inside edge. Like my friend his name's Cassius Marsh. He's like an NFL guy, football player. He owns a trading card store. He's really into all this stuff. He's like on the front edge of everything. He's like the first investor in Cameo. He really knows what he's doing. He's into NFTs. But he's not like, bro, you're missing out. He's like, let me know if you want any NFTs because I have front row. He's like the guy who can get access to anything because he's in the middle of that world.
I can get the good stuff, man.
Yeah, he's got the good stuff, right? You want an albino turtle? He's got an albino turtle, like a real one. You want a Pokemon card? He's got all the hookups. He's always got the plug, right? But the other sort of like the investor folks, the only people that are talking about it are like you, because you like flipped an NFT or something like that, and now you bought a house with it. I don't know, or like, but everyone else is kind of like, I don't really know. I don't really get these. All I know is like there's a guy in the Wall Street Journal who supposedly made a bunch of money doing it, but I'm like, did he make money or did he spend money and now it's valued at X
and paper profits,
right? Yeah, like I wonder if that guy who supposedly made $20 million on that LeBron James set of Top Shot, where's the where are they now in 2 years, when he's like, this isn't worth shit?
You love scams, right? Like
I
in
love
terms
scams.
of like exposing scams and stuff. Here's the biggest, unfortunately, the biggest scam in NFT right now is the biggest NFT that's ever been sold, which is that Beeple piece.
Beeple thing. Yeah.
So Christie's, the world famous art auction house, hosted the Beeple first 5,000 days piece, and then had it up for auction. And it was, Beeple's actually a really cool artist. I was following him way before he got into NFT stuff. I just followed his Instagram because he had cool art and he was doing one every single day. So he did 5,000 digital art pieces, releasing them for free on his Instagram. And then he did an NFT thing a while back in the summer, or maybe it was the fall or whatever. And they sold out, and he made like $3 million selling his individual pieces of art. So then he put up the Donald Trump one, where he put out in celebration of Donald Trump losing the election. It was like Donald Trump laying with some birds tweeting on him or something like that. I think that sold by itself for like $1 million or $2 million.
Wow.
And then he did the Christie's piece, and that sold for $69 million. That one piece of art.
Do we know what he got out of that? Like, did he get 69 million minus Christie's fees?
Yeah, $60 million, and then $9 million was the buyer's premium that Christie's gets. So it turns out, like most of what's going on with this NFT craze, it's whales that made their own coins. Usually they made their own coins. They made tens or hundreds of millions of dollars selling ICO coins or DeFi tokens or whatever, these new DeFi ICO coins. So these guys make literally printing money, putting out illegal securities into the crypto markets, making tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. And then they go and they buy up NFTs to liquidity mine or farm more tokens and pump the jack up the prices, because they own the NFTs themselves. They've got the crypto punks or the whatever, albino turtles or whatever the hell that they've got, and they start buying them up and raising the floor so that they make money. Now, the worst one was this.
Wait, so let me recap this. So these guys that are crypto whales that have a bunch of stuff of cash, they then bought the NFTs in order to inflate the prices of the ones that are on the market, or the ones that they're going to put on the market. And then they sell those and they make a bunch of other people's money off of those. But really, they're just buying stuff with their own money and buying it from themselves. So it doesn't matter. Well, that's what's inflating the price.
Some of it is directly wash trading between their own accounts, because the marketplace is like Rarible. You actually earn Rary tokens for making exchanges on the marketplace. So if you have one wallet that's got $10 million in it and another wallet that's got a bunch of NFTs in it, you can buy back and forth from these two wallets, or you can have 10 wallets or whatever, so it's not so obvious. But every single purchase you make, it's liquidity mining, it's farming Rary tokens. And then you go and sell the Rary token. So you're basically getting free money for swapping these NFTs. That's one of the perverse incentives with the NFTs. The other one is just the fact that if you had went and bought like 50 crypto punks in the summer when they were like $500 each, and then you start from your whale wallet, you start buying them for like $1 million. You buy the rare ones for $1 million, $2 million. That raises the price of the other ones, because you get people like Gary Vee and like Mark Cuban starting to FOMO about it, because they're just the same type of people that came into the ICO craze last time, seeing the huge numbers. It's just like attracts them in.
Sure.
Like, oh my God, NFTs are the next thing. This crypto punk went for $1 million. So it's like there's this guy Whale Shark who is one of the top bidders of all the NFTs. There's another dude OXB1 who's another top NFT holder. Crypto Cobain is another dude who's like pumping the hell out of the cash masks and all these different NFT launches. So it's really no different than 2017 when we saw the celebrities coming in to get paid to shill, except these guys aren't getting paid to do it. They're kind of like manipulating the market themselves. But the Beeple one, the Christie's Beeple one, it's kind of the shadiest, because the dude that bought the Beeple owns the B20 coin, and B20 is a derivative coin that he did an ICO for of Beeple art. So all these Beeples that got sold in the summer for 3 million, dude bought a bunch of the Beeples for the cheap prices and then collateralized his new coin with Beeple NFTs. So it's literally just B20 is just a coin that it's an ICO coin that is secured by Beeple NFTs, and then he goes and buys Beeples on the market for crazy prices to raise the price of Beeple, which raises the price of the B20 coin, and then he bought the $69 million one and put it in his coin. So he literally owns 51% of this coin. He owns like 50 or 60 million dollars worth of this B20 coin and puts all of the shit that he buys in the coin. So it's like, I don't understand. Okay, maybe that's not illegal, maybe it's not a scam, but at the very least, it's like not valuable what's happening there. It's manipulated, and it's gonna crash like really hard once this bubble pops.
I wondered if NFTs were straight up money laundering.
Oh, there's definitely some money laundering. Yeah, I think there's definitely some.
I've done shows about money laundering on the Jordan Harbinger show, like several, whether it has to do with antiquities, art, forgery, gold. I've done straight up money laundering episodes, arms, human trafficking. But like that to me, because I wonder, like, look, man, if you had a bunch of Bitcoin or any coin and you wanted to get some of it into the market, and then you went to buy like an NFT using the trust that holds your coins, now you have this actual piece of quote unquote art that's worth something. Maybe you can either take a loan based on that as collateral, and now you've got a bunch of money. Because money laundering often happens with real estate. You know, you take your drug money and you buy some property, and then you take loans, or even property that's not built yet, and then you take a loan out against that property. Now you've got money in the market, and then you don't care what happens to the actual property because you're criminal.
You put it to work, right? And then you like put it to work, and then try to put it in the Roblox ICO or something like, or the IPO. Yeah. But I think there's probably less money laundering than you'd initially instinctually feel, because it's not like hard to track what's going on with the NFT thing. So someone that's trying to launder money through NFTs is probably going to get caught pretty easily. I think it's literally more just manipulation and bubble mentality, because these guys in the summer that were making millions and tens of millions, like hundreds of millions, literally printing their own money, they have these piles of cash they're sitting on that they don't know what to do with. And NFTs is this like collectible bubble that's sucking in artists and influencers and celebrities. So it's in their interest, these whales that got rich over the last 6 months off the price of these tokens going up, and the price of their ICOs going up, and their ETH bags going up. It's in their interest to spend 10%, say 20%, 50%, whatever it is, of their money on just buying the hell up of the floor of all these NFTs and Top Shots and like all this ridiculous stuff, because then they know that it's going to suck in people like Gary Vee and Mark Cuban. And even Tim Ferriss had an episode about NFTs recently.
I thought, you're better than this. But then I went,
I know, yeah.
But you know what? Honestly, that episode, I looked at the title and I went, why is there oh, this is the SEO special right here. Like, not that, no shade against Tim.
You're right.
I like Tim, and I like Vitalik. You know, those guys are good people. I'm just being a dick. But like, the funny part of this was, I looked at the title and it was like, Bitcoin versus Ethereum, NFTs, and like every sort of hot search term was in the title of this. And I went, what are you doing? And then I was like, oh, I bet this is coming up in the top of Google for like every, you know, it's like Vitalik Buterin, founder of Ethereum, Bitcoin versus Ethereum, NFTs. And I went like, this is the best worst episode title I've ever seen for any post or any podcast in my entire life. By the way, my story, I probably told you this before. I've been friends with Vitalik's mom for like a decade or something like that, right? Did I tell you this already?
I don't think so. So
I knew her I've known her, his mom and dad, for years and years and years and years and years. And I remember like 2016 probably. It had to be 2016. I'm sitting next to her on the bus. We're having a catch-up chat. We're on a bus. This is MMT. And she goes, yeah, my son, you know, I want him to talk to you. Cause at the time I was teaching like dating and social skills. And she's like, yeah, he's autistic, but he's so smart. And we were talking about all these different things. It like, you know, she's a close friend of mine. And she goes, he invented a cryptocurrency. And I rolled my eyes so hard, they probably strained a muscle. He invented this thing. It's called Ethereum. You should buy it. It just came out. It's like $1 now. It started at 25 cents. And I was like, well, good for him. Invented his own cryptocurrency. Like, that's cute. He was like 19 or 18 at the time or whatever, right? 21. She's like, you should do it. I have some. My husband has some. And, you know, these cryptocurrencies, they go up, you know, like Bitcoin. I was like, I already have some Bitcoin. Man, am I sorry I didn't buy Ethereum at $1. Like, or 25 cents or whatever. Like,
me too. Like, obviously not buying that was kind of a bad investment choice. Although I was not philosophically motivated to buy that one, but I was also like, I want more Bitcoin too, right? So
sure.
I should have just bought the stupid ICO and then just sold it for more Bitcoin.
Sure. But I mean, you know, imagine someone's mom tells you to buy their son's cryptocurrency. Yeah, no, are you going to fucking invest in that? No.
Yeah, it's like
you're not.
The prophet is not welcome in his hometown.
No. What was funny was I should have listened to literally anyone else on that bus who knew about cryptocurrency, and they would have gone, yeah, Ethereum, like that could go somewhere. But when it's your mom saying, that's like if my mom says you should listen to my son's podcast, people go like, yeah, well, I'm sure it's great. I'm sure he's not a loser who couldn't get a real job. The Jordan What Show? I don't think so. Beverly is my mom's name.
Yeah, you got to listen to my son's podcast and buy his cryptocurrency.
He's great. Yeah, he's great. He had Matthew McConaughey on. And then people are like, wait, what? Matthew McConaughey did your dumb kids podcast? Yeah, he had Kobe Bryant and Matthew McConaughey and Malcolm Gladwell. And then my mom's friends are like, oh, so he's not a moron that lives on your couch. That's interesting. Tell me more.
Oh, no, he still lives on my couch, but you should listen to his podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's actually pretty good.
How did the conversation go with Ray Dalio? You had him on recently.
It was good. Yeah, he's coming. That episode comes out the part 2 because I had him on last year. It comes out at the end of March. It's another two-parter about the changing world order, as he says. I almost say new world order.
Did he show you any ICOs or any NFTs?
Ray Dalio?
Yeah.
No, I did ask him about Bitcoin. What did he say? Guess I'll have to re-listen to my own episode to get his opinion on that. He was basically like, it was kind of like, you can tell that he understands it, but he doesn't have like a front row seat. But also, I don't think he necessarily wants one, right? But he definitely understands how it works. But I think he's probably in like the top 10 percentile of people who understand how it works, but he's not like one of those guys who really gets blockchain, but also he doesn't care to, I'm sure. I'm not trying to throw shade on Ray Dalio. The dude's a brilliant mind. I just think it's like he understands enough to know how it works, how to invest in it, what to invest in it, but he's not like sitting there going, you know what, we need to put $30 million of Bridgewater, or $30 billion of Bridgewater funds into Bitcoin. I don't think he's there yet.
I think like from what I take from listening to him and reading his stuff on Bitcoin, it seems like he understands enough to be able to get it wrong. Like he understands enough.
I feel you there, man. A lot of us do. Like we talked about that earlier with the ICOs.
Yeah, exactly.
Just enough to screw it up.
Just enough to be like, yeah, this is going to be important, but like Ripple's cheaper, so I'm going to go buy some of that.
And one of this analysts said it could be the next Bitcoin because they read that on a blog. And there's a lot of that.
My friend's son started the next Bitcoin, so I'm going to go buy that one instead. Right. One of those situations.
Yeah. I was sitting next to this woman on a bus, and she told me her kid invented something new with coins, so go buy it. I mean, she really told me, like, you should look into it. Just put a little bit of money into it. It doesn't really matter. It could go up, could go down. I'm like, I just didn't even care. I remember being like, whatever, Ethereum, I'll Google it later, but no way am I investing in this. Are you insane?
Well, you did well, man, just holding the Bitcoin. Like Ethereum actually, when you measure in Bitcoin terms, most people need to do is measure the point at which you would have probably bought or sold, or the average person would have bought or sold something. That's the volume adjusted profile of a coin. Because lots of people always say like, oh, if you had a bought link, you would have done better than Bitcoin, or if you had bought a CryptoPunk, you would have been better than Bitcoin, because like they want to, like, it's a bubble and everybody's making all this money and people want to like pump their coins and have validation and edify it and stuff like that. But when you actually look at like the volume adjusted profile, where it's like the most amount of volume took place at the price X price, that's most likely where most people came. So sure, insiders were able to get Ethereum in the ICO or in the
25
presale
cents,
or whatever, 25 cents. But most people got it at like $700 near the top in 2017. That's when the Google searches spiked. That's when the most addresses were created. And that's when like Coinbase was listing it, and or it was having all the volume. So on the volume adjusted basis and on the risk adjusted basis, Bitcoin has always been the best investment for the average person because it's less volatile on the way down. And most people are buying Bitcoin at a better price because when you look at the Google searches and the volume profiles and stuff on Bitcoin compared to pretty much anything else, sure, there's a handful of insiders or 1% or so of the people that bought a coin at a super cheap price and then rode a 20x or a 100x or whatever. But most people end up just buying high and selling low and not holding through a bear market, or just buying high and getting wrecked because of the thousands of cryptocurrencies. I'm sure, maybe some of them are going to end up not going to completely to zero, but a lot of them will go to zero. And especially in a situation like this where everything is propped up, the stock market, housing prices, everything, once that's kind of like allowed to sort itself out, it's going to be wreckage in the crypto market and in the NFT market.
I mean, I took your advice like 2 years ago or whatever it was, and I said, should I just sell all this stuff? Because I had all these altcoins, and they were all worth like 2 cents, and I bought them for $1 or $2, and I was like, ugh. But I sold them all.
Sometimes you got to capitulate and just forget about it.
But I sold it all for Bitcoin instead of dollars.
Right, that's the thing. You go all to Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, then I did the math, and I was like, all right, cool. I got like 0.9 Bitcoin out of this, or 0.7 Bitcoin out of all these altcoins. And I was like, man, that sucks. I really sold these at a lot. And now I'm like, wow, that was a really good time to sell all those altcoins for jack shit because the Bitcoin appreciated so much. I think Bitcoin was probably worth like 9 or 10 grand or 12 grand or whatever. And I got 0.7 and I went, wow, that was probably, 40 grand and I just got it 12 grand. Like, oh, well, that sucks. And now I probably made 20 grand off of that whole
That's the thing, man. Like, a lot of people come to me with that same question. Is like, hey, I bought this 2 years ago. I'm going to wait for it to go up. Or do you think I should buy Bitcoin? And usually it's a really tough decision, especially for someone who doesn't have that safety net of like an income or whatever, to capitulate on a position that's down and is likely going to stay down compared to Bitcoin. Because half the time I'm going to give that advice to sell it to Bitcoin, the coin that they were in is going to moon at some point. So it's going to get pumped, and they're going to feel like, oh, I shouldn't listen to Brad. Like one of my buddies had some Dogecoin.
Yeah, sure.
And it pumped, like when Elon tweeted about it 6 months ago, it pumped to like 2 cents. And I was like, dude, sell that. Sell it
now. Yeah.
And then, so he did. And then Elon starts tweeting about it like crazy, and the pump and dumpers get a hold of it. It goes to 10 cents. So he missed a 5x on Bitcoin. He could have made another 5x on his Bitcoin if he hadn't listened to me.
As Doge, you mean?
On Doge, yeah. Oh, well, I mean, like he would have had 5x more Bitcoin had he sold.
Oh, right, sure, yeah. I mean, look, you can't predict that stuff.
You can't be right all the time, but
look, some of the reasons that I even made any money on alts was because McAfee I would buy an alt that had like a good rep, or I knew the person, and then McAfee would pump it, and I'd go, well, shit, I'm not going to turn down a 19x, sell, and then it would crash, and I'd go, oh. I basically just ended up getting super lucky because a scammer pumped this. And then I was like, I don't really like the feeling of getting rich off that. I also don't like the odds of being able to replicate that particular strategy. Even though at the time I also knew McAfee a little bit, and I was like, I could ask him, but then I was like, I'm not a son of a bitch, and I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I'm not really that's a little bit immoral.
It is immoral, and I hate scammers, and I expose scammers all the time. And I was like, I'm not going to like join in on this just to make money. I mean, I could have sold a bunch of cocaine too. Didn't do that either. So I just decided like sticking with the sort of principled Bitcoin and going with that. But the one thing I didn't sell was 0x because I like it for some reason and I have a bunch of it, and also I bought it for like 0.18 or 1.8 cents or something like that, or 18. I can never get. It's either 18 cents or 1.8 cents is what I got it for, and I have like a bunch. And so watching that go up and down wildly whenever they raise money for that project, I'm just like, oh, this is kind of fun, you know. So that's kind of nice.
I think actually that was the one that I told you to keep.
It might be the one you told me to keep.
I was like, dude, like that's like they're probably gonna pump that. Coinbase is an investor, and Andreessen Horowitz is an investor. We're coming into a crazy bull market and alt season. Like, sell it when it's like 20x higher for more Bitcoin. I think that was the one I was like, sure, keep that one, sell it for higher because Coinbase is going to go public, and they're going to have tons of money to pump the shit out of those things that they're invested in. So just save it and get yourself some more Bitcoin.
That's precisely where I'm at.
Don't pump it. Like, that's the only thing. Don't pump it yourself. Just
no. I won't.
Steal money from the VCs. That's all.
I look at it right now. I'm like, oh, okay, it's $1.22 or whatever it is there, $1.50. If this thing goes up to $15, I'm selling at least 80% of it, right?
Yeah. You gotta take your wins
for Bitcoin, and then I'm gonna. But like, for the thing is with the Bitcoin, I'm like, am I just gonna end up giving this to my kid? Like, I don't know. Is it going to be one of those things that even exists in like 50 years? Or am I going to retire and go, all right, I'm buying a beach house with this money?
Well, I do think that of any of the cryptocurrencies, for sure, Bitcoin is the one that has the most likelihood chance of being here in 50 years.
Yeah.
I don't think like 0x or Ethereum are going to be here in 50 years.
No, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. This is, speaking of money laundering, how the hell do you even cash this stuff out if you have a ton of it? Like, I'm not talking about me. I'll just pay taxes.
You gotta buy CryptoPunks.
What?
And then launch an ICO where it's a Punk 20 is what it's called, and it's just put all your CryptoPunks in the coin, and then sell it, and then take a collateralized loan against your CryptoPunks. That's literally the advice people are giving on Clubhouse.
That's insane. I mean, no, obviously what I will do is I will just transfer it all into some, Coinbase, and then pay taxes on it like a normal human being.
Well, what you want to actually do for cashing out is you can either sell a little bit through an OTC desk is probably the best, easiest way to do it. Cumberland or Galaxy or any of the OTC desks. Then you can just get a wire into your account. But I would suggest don't sell any. I'm in this position right now where I'm thinking I should invest in some more stuff. I should collateralize some of my Bitcoin, take a loan on it, and then use that cash for funding my living expenses or doing some investing or whatever. So that's the point where most people are thinking right now. There's like the price is up quite a bit, and they're thinking, should I take some profits or should I do a loan? Now, if you take a loan on your Bitcoin, say you want to put 2 Bitcoin in a collateralized loan, usually it's 50% loan to value ratio. So if you put 2 Bitcoin in, say the price is 50,000, just for easy math, you'll get $50,000. So it's worth $100,000, but you get 50 because it's a 50% loan to value ratio. So you put in $100,000 worth of Bitcoin, get 50,000 loan back to you. Then you can take that $50,000 and buy your beach house or buy some NBA Top
buy your beach house in Guatemala for $50,000. Not even probably Guatemala.
Buy your beach house in Cape Breton.
You can buy your beach house in North Korea for $50,000.
Yeah. Put down a piece of your down payment on your beach house.
Right. Yeah. So, you can buy the sand for the beach.
So that, like, let's say we're using the 2 Bitcoin, right? If you had just sold the 2 Bitcoin for $100,000, you pay taxes on it. You pay your 25% capital gains tax, right? If you do the loan thing, you don't pay any taxes because it's not a disbursement. You're not disposing of the asset. You're just taking a loan.
I just wonder what people do when they find themselves in possession of $180 million in Bitcoin because they bought a bunch, and now they're like, oh, do I renounce my U.S. citizenship and move somewhere, and then to Singapore? And I'm like, I wonder how those people
a lot
are
of
doing
people do that. Like they move to, if you're U.S., you move to Puerto Rico. If you're not U.S., you go to Portugal or somewhere else like some tropical island or Grand Cayman or something like that, where their tax laws are super liberal, I guess, where you don't have to pay much taxes. But a lot of people are moving to states like Florida as well in the US if they don't want to full on go to Puerto Rico for that Act 22 thing where you get like no taxes like Peter Schiff does, and a lot of Bitcoin multimillionaires and stuff. Then you go to Florida where there's no income tax, no state tax, or Texas. That's where a lot of people are going, Texas or Florida, and Puerto Rico. And then I know a lot of people that are going to European countries that have like no taxes. Portugal.
Like was it like San Marino probably or something like that?
I don't know him.
You don't know San Marino? It's a city-state in Italy.
Oh,
you definitely don't know him because it's a city-state.
San Marino.
San
Marino. Player?
That does sound like a football player name. No, I was just wondering because I figure there's got to be people that we know that are just so moneyed up right now that they like that not only do they never have to work again, but they're in a position of like that Facebook guy where they're like, do I just renounce my U.S. passport to save $60 million or what?
Is that Eddie Savrin or whatever?
Yeah, the guy who moved to Brazil and then was like, I'm never going to... But he can never come back to the U.S. because he'll get arrested for tax evasion. So I don't know if that's a real great strategy.
Well, I do know a lot of people that are going to those places.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. And especially if the government doesn't know that that's your Bitcoin, right?
Well, some people are just fine paying the exit tax too because they think it's going to appreciate so much in the next 10 years that they're like forward looking and making the calculation. Like, I'm going to pay $100 million in taxes if I stay, or I could pay like $5 million in taxes right now, leave and continue working in this industry or continue holding. And then I'll save myself $95 million in taxes. Like that, it's kind of like at that point, it becomes an economic calculation. But yeah, of course, there's people that have like anonymous wallets that are just leaving and being like, oh, I don't have anything.
Yeah, going on vacation, and then they got an anonymous trust somewhere in Singapore. I worry about stuff like that, though, because at some point, if it becomes lucrative enough, the U.S. will go, hey, we now have the FBI, CIA, whatever division of people that just look for people who made a shitload of money, and we're going to spy on you and find out, and we're going to, extradite you to the United States, or just arrest your ass when you set foot on European soil to go to your kid's graduation at his private school, and you're going to pay that money because we know the Bitcoin. Like as soon as they wrap their heads around this, they're going to be able to trace. My buddy's a money laundering expert, and an attorney, not. He's on the side of catching money launderers. And he's like, crypto is one of the worst ways. Bitcoin especially is one of the worst ways to launder money because if we look hard enough, he's a U.S. attorney. If we look hard enough, we can find you because it's a fucking blockchain. Like that's the whole point. We can find you, and we will eventually find a transaction that you made that links us to you, and then we will just trace everything on the blockchain. And he's like, we're making software, or we're going to buy software from some vendor like Palantir that can do this, and we're going to find your wallets and every wallet you've ever had. And unless you're using Monero or something where it's like impossible, quote unquote, to trace, they're going to find you, and they're going to find that you had $59 million in Bitcoin and you don't anymore. But they're just going to take your house and all the money you have in the United States.
Yeah, that's what it could get to. It could get really aggressive where they really, and I mean, they're already in Canada. The government here put $110 million a year and a half ago into software to surveil Canadians to try to find people that haven't paid their taxes on cryptocurrency and the gig economy. So the gig economy is really big here. So they're trying to find the under the table money and the under the table streams of income that people aren't paying their taxes on. So the government here is like really into the surveillance stuff. They are sending out requests to the exchanges to get all the records. Same thing in the US. They're definitely looking at this stuff, and it's unless you're being extremely careful about not leaking data with like using proper VPNs and like not mixing any of your wallets together or anything like that, you're going to get caught. So it's not worth it to try to be funny with your crypto transactions because they want their taxes. And if they do subpoena an exchange or something like that and your name appears there, or they don't even need to do that. They can just look at all the data dumps online. Like the dark web has all these data dumps of all these exchanges, and every account pretty much everywhere has been hacked and leaked. Even the government has had their exchanges, like their databases, get leaked. So it's like unless you're being super careful, yeah, you're gonna get caught. And even if you're using Monero or something like that, they can just subpoena your internet provider and get all your IP records, and then you're kind of screwed there. Or they can get your computer, like they can come in and try to seize your computer. So yeah,
that's interesting. I hadn't even thought about the fact that they can literally just look at all of that other. I mean, yeah, and that makes sense too, right? Like, oh, you think your Monero's secret? Cool. We can look at the data record, like the server you synced your Monero wallet on. So why?
Yeah, so unless you're being careful with like what you're doing with your computers and your internet, and you're leaking your IP address out to any exchanges you're on, there could be a world in, say, like 5 years where they do go really aggressive after anybody that has any traces of cryptocurrency. Like if we get to that world where a lot of people are saying the dollar's going to hyperinflate, the dollar's going to lose its world reserve currency status, and Bitcoin is kind of like parallel to the dollar and starts to accrue value really fast, like we're talking $1 million, $2, $3, $4, $5 million per Bitcoin. In that world, if that happens while the dollar is also failing, governments are going to probably turn aggressive towards trying to get as much taxation as possible. They're going to probably try to do things like windfall taxes, and like try to maybe do like 70% tax. If you had Bitcoin gains, congratulations, but now you're paying for the national debt. So 70% tax on you. Yeah. That's not outside of the realm of possibility. It happened in the Depression. They did that with windfall taxes and Executive Order 6102, where they made it illegal to own gold.
Sure.
They could try that again. So that's why I think people are starting to leave these jurisdictions. And Ray Dalio even talked about that in his letter last year. Like he was talking about how the rich are going to want to leave, even if you just have assets like Tesla, right? If you just have stock that appreciated a ton because of money printing and the socialized debt and everything, you may be a target of government overreach.
Are you gonna try and get a second passport? Do you have one?
It depends. I don't think my wife's really into that stuff. She's got roots here, so I think I'm pretty much screwed. I'm just gonna.
It doesn't mean you have to leave. It just means you can, right?
Yeah, I would like to. She may be up to it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to move to China either, right? Like, it doesn't mean you can never see your family again. Like, that's an interesting argument. Like, oh, my wife doesn't want me. It's like, it just means you don't have to get a tourist visa in Europe, but you can live there or wherever you get
Portugal. We may want to do Portugal because her family is from Portugal.
That's the easiest one. Lucky you. Is she Jewish by any chance?
No.
Oh, okay. Because it's real easy to get if you're Jewish, because you can basically say, hey, we were what is it, the Spanish Inquisition. We lost our citizenship, and they're just like, here's your passport.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you're a Sephardic Jew, which means Spanish Jew, you can get a Spanish or a Portuguese passport with minimal documentation.
I'll have to do the 23andMe test to find out.
Do a 23andMe, find out if she's part Jew, even part Jewish.
What percent does she need?
Oh, I don't know. I bet you not much. I bet you not much at all. Because, I mean, you know, the thing is, with European countries, and I'm not speaking with any authority here, but with European countries especially, it's going to be a not very popular and not very PC argument for them to go, yeah, we killed a bunch of your ancestors, but not really enough of them where we're going to give you a passport, right? Because you're only 1/16. They're going to be like, yeah, we murdered your great-grandparents. Here's a passport, right? And that's kind of what I'm doing with me trying to get a second passport is there's my family's from Austria. And there's a new law from last year where basically if you're Jewish and you have Austrian descent and you can prove it, if you can prove it, they will help you get documents from then, because they know that, like, in 1938, they basically said, undesirables, especially Jews, are no longer citizens of Austria, therefore we can deport them. Well, okay, now they're saying, hey, that wasn't really fair. Here's your passport, you know, because really, theoretically, your family only left Austria because we did terrible things to you. So they have new laws that let you do that. It's a pretty unpopular argument to go, it was only your grandma we killed. So, you know, like, that's not really super fair. Oh, they were poor, so we don't have to give you your citizenship back. You didn't have shit here anyway. Like, that's not really a good argument, you know? It's not an argument they want to make, that is.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So if it's that easy, or if at least it's not that difficult to get a second passport, especially in a place like a beautiful place like the Azores in Portugal. I mean, it's like a tropical island there. Have you ever been?
No, I've never been to Portugal, but to finish to finish my thought here, any EU passport is great, because if you get your Portuguese passport and you live in that fancy island area, which sounds amazing, you could pick up and move to Poland tomorrow, or any of the Schengen countries you can go live in or work in, and you're fine. Portugal's pretty much top of the heap, but like if I get an Austrian passport, it's one of the best passports in the world, and it's up there with the U.S. in terms of getting into certain amounts of countries visa-free. I speak fluent German already, so like moving around that area is really easy. Living in around that area is really easy. Any EU passport's great. Portugal's the easiest one to get. In fact, you can invest something like 250 grand into a company there, and then you pay like a fee of 100 grand, and here's your passport.
Wow.
Yeah.
Buy a house or something like that?
Yeah, I don't even know if you need property. I think the key is you start your business there. So what you would do is you'd probably live there, start a business where you have an assistant who's Portuguese. You'd have your, secretary or whatever who's Portuguese. I don't know how many employees you need, if any. You capitalize a business, aka you put $300,000 in a Portuguese bank that runs your business. Secretary does your grocery shopping. I don't know. Cleans your house.
I've always wanted to build a Jello theme park where you go on a water slide, and then you get shot into a big giant cube of Jello.
They didn't say it had to be a good business. They just said it had to be a business.
Do you think I could start that for $300K?
How much is Jello? What's the going rate for Jello these days? Does it have to be official brand name Jello, or can it be off-brand Jello?
I assumed we were going to be partners and that you were going to get the Jello company to sponsor it.
I will handle the Jello. You handle the property. You got a deal.
And I'll handle the passport.
That's right. That's right.
Sounds like we got a new business
I feel like this has all been worthwhile now. Like, before we were just bullshitting, and now look at the gems. Look at the crystal and Jello gems that have come out of this conversation.
Perfect.
That's right. And on that note, I'm hungry.
Yeah. So, thanks for coming on the Magic Internet Money podcast and jamming about Bitcoin and bubbles and NFT and Jello.
The Jello jam. That's right. The Jello jam has made me hungry for breakfast, lunch, which is where I'm at right now. Yeah, this is fun, man. It always is fun because it always sort of skirts. It's like investing, cryptocurrency, money laundering, second passports, and world travel spy shit. It's kind of, there's a lot of interesting stuff, roads we can go down when it comes to the Magic Internet Money.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Always a pleasure. People can find you at...
That's right. The Jordan Harbinger Show. JordanHarbinger.com. Easiest way to do it.
And on Twitter, are you active on Twitter?
I'm at Jordan Harbinger on Twitter. I'm not, I answer all my DMs on Twitter and Instagram, but I don't tweet missives. I don't do that stuff. I had to start my Twitter account over in 2018, and I lost 100,000 followers. All of those are bots and dead accounts anyways. So then I was like, I don't miss this. I don't miss social media.
I do appreciate the jokes that you put on your Instagram stories. So those always make me laugh. The good
that's more a labor of love, right? That's not like me trying to get clout on the internet. That's me being like, there's a sign that says "fuck vegetables." I got to take a picture of this. Chinese translation is "fuck vegetables."
Cool, man. All right, well let's do this again sometime, and maybe I'll have a couple other folks on or whatnot. But yeah, thanks for coming on and spending your Saturday morning with me. You got it, man. We should have a second passport person, one of those digital. Yeah, we'll have a digital nomad person. Yeah, one of those people who. There are those guys that specialize in teaching other people how to get their second passport, and 90% of that shit has to be money laundering stuff, or I should say tax avoidance, not money laundering. I think it's mostly people who are avoiding paying too much taxes, but also kind of afraid of socialism or communism and stuff, and they're kind of just want to be prepared in case this trend continues in a way that ends up ending in confiscation of all your assets. The comedy part for me though is they all get passports in some crappy hovel Europe hovel country where it's
You don't think that the
Yeah,
Santa Lucia Caribbean Diplomatic Corps is going to come rescue your ass from a U.S. prison, right? Like, these are countries where you invest 50 grand and you buy like a condo and they give you a pass. Like, they are not going to do anything for you. Every country requires you to have a visa to get in, unless you're trying to go to the Dominican.
Envoy to the Turks and Caicos. You can't.
Yeah. Like you might avoid some taxes, but you have to like pay $500 and wait 6 months to get a visa to go to fucking France. Yeah, like it's not that great. All right, man. I'll catch you on the other side. I appreciate you having me on.
All right, thanks. See you later.